Alright. Hey everyone. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a couple of things with Revulsion and I don't know, just regular update. Actually, try to keep things as casual as possible because I gotta. I've been focusing on the game so much that I haven't even been posting on Steam. I haven't even been making videos because I'm so dedicated right now to just making sure that I get all the new enemy stuff in place, and I'll talk about that in a second. So, one of the funny things that I wanted to kind of talk about for a little bit is some reactions to the game in its current state right now. And one of the things I've noticed is kind of interesting is the fear that it's going to be kind of like another dull corridor shooter and stuff like that, and that there's this kind of, this is actually a good fear that I'm glad that I'm seeing people start to talk about this, is that it's just going to be, another humdrum like dull game where your armor just always regenerates and your health just comes back, and then you can come back out and you can start shooting dudes again, and there's like no resource management and stuff like that. But the reality is that this is kind of the opposite of that. Now, your armor does regenerate in the game, but it's limited. But it's a limited resource right here, and your action points are also a limited resource. So a lot of the stuff that's going on is actually kind of, it's a lot more akin to Dark Souls, in that in Dark Souls you have limited number of Estus flasks, and sure, that amount goes up, but depending on the kind of armor that you equip, like if you look at here, AP plus, it increases your max action points. So if I take this off, you'll see my action points went down. So if you have like a full suit of endless gear, your action points are actually higher. But you give up other stuff too, because you can be, you could be equipped with Berserker armor, reduces your max hit points, but increases your attack power and stuff like that. Well, anyway, not to have totally gotten sidetracked, but it's closer to the Dark Souls in that respect. Now, there's one exception. See this white line underneath your armor? Your armor will regenerate, but it's the only thing that you have that actually does regenerate. So if I, let's see if I hit myself with the missile. Alright, you'll notice that I'm getting the armor depleted message. This is important to pay attention to, because if you see this message pop up, damage that you take, like you've lost all mitigation on your armor. And any damage that you take while your armor is 0 is is 100%. So there are enemies that can just basically one-shot you from full health. You have to be really careful about that, especially on the harder and any of the harder content. Well, you notice that this white line went down when the armor went up. In other words, when this white line reaches 0, your armor doesn't replenish on its own anymore. And the only way to get it back is you get a tiny amount back whenever you gain experience points from killing something. Alright, and then you also get half of it back whenever you pick up an ammo box. So, but it's a one-time pickup, only comes back once you reset everything. Alright. Oh, by the way, you're looking at my test level. This is like where I give myself all my gear and set what level I am, and I can turn New Game Plus on if I want to, and I can give myself a ton of like loot and shit like that. But anyway, see, the ammo box goes away until you're done with the session. In other words, you go back to the home point, your quote-unquote bonfire, right? All enemies also respawn when this happens as well. So this game is meant more to be like limited resources, and your choices actually do have an impact. And I'm making the conscious decision to bar a lot of people from actually progressing based on their personal skill. That is actually a cornerstone of the design of the game, is that I'm actually designing it in such a way where a lot of people are simply not going to have the ability to play well enough in order to progress. And I'm not providing an easy difficulty. There's no difficulty setting. The only thing that I have right now is that, and I'm really like teetering on just getting rid of this as an option, but I don't even want that. I'm actually thinking of making the game just one really it's fairly difficulty from the start, and it only gets harder. So like when you start a fresh game, that's it. You're dealing with that's the default difficulty that everybody's playing with. So you're probably wondering, like, why would I do that? Like, why would I like kneecap myself when it comes to, like, you know, how many people can enjoy the game? Well, there is something to be said about actually trying to form a counter culture around this sort of everybody deserves to win mentality that sort of, you know, it plagues a lot of games, and whatever. Like, I don't have necessarily anything against that, but I feel that there's a void to be filled when, especially in first-person shooters, where it's just like if you're not good enough, you're not going to get to the end. I'm not even used to the idea. Like, in fact, it actually seems kind of weird, and I get a weird reaction from people when I say this. Like, I'm not accidentally making the game too hard. I'm literally designing it to be too hard. So, well, not too hard. I'm designing it to fill this niche where the number of people who will actually be able to complete the content is less than the number of people who will try to play it. And I'm not going to be forgiving and artificially increase that amount. If you look at games like Half-Life, I even see people kind of complaining about Destiny 2. I haven't played it yet, but, you know, Destiny 2 being too easy and stuff like that. But it's a really common thread, and it's a very logical idea that you would go in that direction, that you would try to make the game as easy as possible so that everybody can make it. Everybody has an opportunity. I'm going against that. That is a conscious decision. I think that's one of the things that separates the game from well, most other first-person shooters, honestly. I think in and of itself, this one design decision does actually change things quite a bit. In a way, Doom and Quake were kind of like that as well, but Doom and Quake provided you a whole bunch of different skill levels, and there was, you know what I mean? But there's something to be said about the entire mentality that forms around Dark Souls. And I really feel like when I play Dark Souls and when I think about Dark Souls as a concept, there's just so much to be said about just having the game be what it is. And if you, rather than trying to change the game for everybody, you make the game a challenge in and of itself, sort of Nintendo hard kind of a concept. But you have to maintain that the game has to be fair. You have to make sure that it's still within a certain realm of difficulty. But that's one of the first things that comes up when people were like looking at the game, and they were kind of like talking about it, like whatever happened to the good old days of like resource management and whatever happened to, like, yeah, well, this is it, and here's your chance. You're gonna have to be paying attention to like the stats on gear. Now you're probably thinking, well, you can just outgear all of the content. Nope. The game is designed in such a way where part of the challenge is actually gearing up and making sure that you make the best choices and making sure that you're constantly getting new stuff. It's also another aspect as well. I've mentioned it many times before, the idea that you can kind of bribe somebody to keep playing Doom or Quake by hitting their happy notes on their in their brain by constantly handing him cooler and cooler stuff. That's just a lot of modern game design philosophy in any. Ow. Not a lot of these guys are lacking their animations. These are brand new enemies. Assault rifle enemies. See, this guy has his animations. These are the regular zombies. So I've kind of noticed the way the meta of this game kind of flows at the moment, or at least that's how things are going in this direction, is that you go into a new area and your goal is to both gain experience points and try to find the best loot you can possibly find. That'll drop off of enemies. Usually that'll but there's also key places where you'll find vending machines and loot and placed loot in the level. Right? Sometimes it seriously feels like a battle just getting down a hallway. Ooh, we got a lot of good stuff, so this is worth a lot of credits right here, and I could probably turn all that in. Now the vending machine is down the hallway over here. You have to, the auto map isn't set up for this area yet, but you can see the kind of positions where stuff is. So you end up spawning sort of a auto map in front of you on the ground, and it displays everything in front of you. This area that I'm working on right now is still a work in progress, and I haven't finished the layout yet, so I haven't created the diorama for the auto map. Okay, so like you'll notice this is also a lot of this is gray box and stuff. So there's a vending machine here. Won't activate unless I clear out the enemies in the area. Rocketeer guys are going to be awesome. They're going to be holding a rocket launcher like this. I think the rockets need to be a little bit more opposing. I'm going to have to change the rockets so that they not only like there's a bit more of a glow to the rocket while it's flying through the air. Alright, so what you just saw me grab right there was an ammo box, which replenished a decent chunk of my ammo, but also gave me a little bit more of my armor regen. Now, if you're taking too much damage, you will have to face the decision of turning back to start over, or maybe finding a vending machine or something like that. You kind of have to think about, like, okay, well, how am I going to handle this situation? Because if I keep pushing forward, I'm probably going to lose all my armor. I'll die, right? Because I won't have any damage mitigation. So this vending machine here is set up. It's got a lot of really good stuff. All of it's level 9. Level 10 is the level cap at the moment, right? The only way to raise the level cap is going to be to do boss fights, and I haven't gotten to the first boss fight yet. So my level is capped right now at this. But these are worth a lot of credits. So the only way, once you are at the level cap, to gain better and better stuff is to increase its quality, the item quality, which raises the item's level. I don't want to sell my obliterator. Obliterator is a really good gun. I was just using the laser cannon for testing. But this gotcha token thing is a joke. Alright, so that's pretty much that. I think You'll notice too that there's a wire that goes through the center of this entire area. Yesterday I released a video of the fight that you have to complete in order to power up this wire. So that was a power node battle. And the only way you can open up this door all the way out here howitzer. Howitzer is a pretty fun gun. Alright, so that's pretty much that right there. I'm actually thinking that I'm probably going to nerf the amount of armor regen that you get from the pickup, because I might have made it too high. The only way to really fully recover it should be to pay money at a vending machine. But with that said, so you actually kind of like circle around the next area that you're in, getting better and better loot, and then once you're ready, you'll be able to actually do the fight. It can unlock the door, and then you can go to the next area, that kind of stuff. And that's the general flow. I put another 9 auto shot. See, a lot of my gear right now that I have, because this is the developer build of the game, I have access to all the best stuff, but I have on Steam, I have my legitimate playthrough, and right now I was struggling at this part because I forgot to put anything in the vending machine, and I forgot to put certain pickups and stuff like that in this area. So one of the things that's kind of neat about the development process of this is that I'm getting a chance to play my own game in a way that like I'm actually playing it. But I mean, you're supposed to normally do that anyway. It's just I'm getting to enjoy it the same way. Usually when you do single player content, you're so sick of testing it, you know, for the thousandth time that it's not like, you know, it's not the same thing. But the way this game is set up is there's kind of like there's an ebb and flow to it that makes it a little bit more entertaining while developing on it. So anyway, now if you probably remember the video from last night, that's this area in here. But if you're not geared, if you're not ready for that fight, one of the things you can end up doing is you can kind of go back through, and you know, the loot and everything like that, the loot in the vending machine, all that stuff respawns. So whenever you reset at a home point, now all that stuff is back. You can do the same thing. You can go through a second time. So now that I kind of have a feel for how it flows like this, it's interesting to see like how I can make these areas a little bit more interesting, so that you can like run through them in different ways and do it like multiple runs in order to gear up and gain points and stuff like that in order to be able to go further through. I don't know. It's a different flow. It's a flow that I'm kind of enjoying right now. But I mean, I don't know. I'm the one working on it, so I'll have to see what other people say. But yeah, the game is not meant to be easy. It's actually meant to kick your ass, and that's a core design. So I provide you with the tools to hopefully not get your ass kicked. But a lot of people who are watching this are probably just gonna get their asses kicked. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end the video here. Uh, yeah, stay tuned for more. I'll try to do more of these if I can.